Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to Rossari Biotech Limited earnings conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Ms. Aisha Shah from CDR India. Thank you, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Faizan. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Rossari Biotech Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. We have with us Mr. Edward Meneses, Promoter and Executive Chairman, Mr. Sunil Chari, Promoter and Managing Director, and Ms. Mansi Nizal, CFO of the company. We'll begin the call with the opening remarks from the management, following which we'll have the forum open for question and answer session. Before we start, I would like to point out that some statements made in today's call may be forward-looking in nature, and disclaimer to this effect have been included in the earnings presentation shared with you earlier. I would now like to invite Mr. Edward Meneses to make his opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good evening to everyone, and thank you for joining us on our Q1 FY22 earnings call to discuss the operational and financial performance for the quarter ended June 30th, 2021. I hope you are all keeping safe and healthy, and trust you had the opportunity to go through our results presentation for the quarter ended June 30th, 2021. The quarter gone by was an eventful one in terms of our business milestones. We announced strategic acquisitions of two high-potential companies, namely Unitop Chemicals and Tristar Intermediates. These acquisitions bring in a multitude of synergies for us, such as expanded product portfolio, stronger presence in high-potential categories of personal care and home care segments, and access to capacity and talent. More so, the addition of newer technologies and expanded footprint in newer markets will create a strategic cross-selling opportunity for Rossari. Our near-term goal is to fully focus on integrating the recent acquisitions in the coming quarters. In our last interaction, we had mentioned how if a small and strategic inorganic growth opportunity does present itself, Rossari may evaluate the acquisition if it is a value accretive one. We are pleased to announce that the board has resolved to make a strategic investment by acquiring or subscribing to equity shares equivalent to 50.10% of the issued and paid up capital of Romax Chemicals for an aggregate consideration of 75.1 million. Romax is primarily engaged in the business of manufacturing silicone oil and has key competencies in an exciting portfolio of products focused on the home and personal care industry. As you are aware, silicone is one of Rossari's 4 core chemistries. However, our know-how in silicone chemistry is mostly in the textile segment with limited presence in the HPPC segment. Romax brings this value capability on board that would have taken us years to develop in-house. So we believe this small but strategic investment will significantly strengthen Rossari's presence in home and personal care segments in the future. Coming to the quarter's performance, we are happy to share that we have delivered a robust set of results driven by improved demand and traction across our businesses. While the first quarter did begin amidst a tough operating environment due to the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, the demand and offtake across our HPPC, TSC and AHN divisions broadly remained steady. Our HPPC business in the quarter demonstrated strong growth led by higher volumes in hygiene products and antiviral portfolio, supported by consistent demand in key end user categories. In the TSC business, we saw steady performance and sustained traction from export markets. This, in addition to improved consumption in the AHN segment, assisted our overall performance. During the quarter, our consolidated revenues were higher by 111.12% year-on-year with EBITDA higher by 56.33% and PAT up by 58.4% year-on-year. The higher growth rates are on account of a lower base in the corresponding period last year. But even when compared on a Q-on-Q basis, we have reported healthy growth across parameters. One of Rossari's key focus areas is towards leveraging its R&D and innovation competencies to seed and introduce new business lines within its four core chemistries. In the last fiscal year, we had discussed how we were focusing towards launching new product categories within paint, water treatment, and performance chemicals. I am happy to share that these new categories are seeing strong demand from customers, and we have recorded a notable contribution from these products, which further helps sustain the growth momentum during the quarter. In sync with our long-term growth strategy, our dedicated R&D team, both at Mumbai and Silvassa, are constantly evaluating upon various opportunities to introduce new product niches with impetus on sustainability and environment friendliness. Looking ahead, we continue to remain optimistic about our growth prospects given our diversified range of product offerings, fungible and agile manufacturing establishments, strategic inorganic growth drivers, and our growing customer base. From a macroeconomic standpoint, wider vaccination drives across the country, normal monsoon, and normalization of day-to-day activities should drive higher recovery in demand and consumption going forward. With this, I would like to conclude my address and now hand it over to Mr. Chari for his comments.
Thank you, Edward Ji. Good evening and warm namaste to everyone. I hope and wish that you all and your families are keeping safe and healthy. We are pleased to share that we have delivered a strong performance and achieved improved growth in the first quarter. Our HPPC business and AHN business, as Edward Ji indicated, recorded robust growth both on a YOY and a Q-on-Q basis. While broader operating constraints due to the lockdown restrictions moderated performance of our textile specialty chemical business, sequentially, we are now seeing a healthy uptick in sales in the segment from June onwards. We also recorded healthy traction in client engagement, especially from diverse FMCG, textile, and AHN customers during the quarter. On the raw materials front, we continued to witness pricing pressures across key raw materials. However, we have been able to manage the situation efficiently and have delivered profitability margins broadly as per our internal targets. Coming to key business developments as covered by Edward Ji, we have announced two very strategic acquisitions of high quality and high potential companies in the specialty chemical space. These acquisitions bring immense synergies and growth dimensions for Rossari and are complementary to our business and work culture. We have also announced the strategic investment in Romac Chemicals. Now our primary focus will be towards seamlessly integrating these three inorganic growth drivers into our business model, which will enable us to accelerate our growth momentum in the medium to longer term. Going ahead, we have no plans to consider medium or large site acquisitions from a near to medium term basis. In another development, we have executed a share purchase agreement to buy out the remaining 40% stake in our subsidiary Rossari Personal Care Products Private Limited to make it a wholly owned subsidiary. Through this subsidiary, we will build our presence in the upcoming and the promising categories of personal care such as skin care, cosmetics, and body care products. Our constant endeavor is to drive operational excellence across our businesses at all times. In the last few years, we have undertaken several growth initiatives which we believe will lead to stronger and sustainable growth in the quarters ahead. From a demand perspective, improved recovery in the domestic economy and sustained traction in the export market should further support momentum. Overall, with the blend of capabilities from recent acquisitions and with our robust and resilient organic business, the outlook remains positive in the medium to longer term. An important focus for us in challenging times is the health and safety of our employees, business partners and communities. In May and June, we started organizing vaccination camps for our employees and their families as per the guidelines set by the government. Subsequent vaccination drives are in process and will be rolled out in due course. On the operational front, our corporate office, plants and R&D centers continue to operate at normalized levels, and we are all following strict adherence to social distancing, hygiene protocols and safety. On that note, I would now request Ms. Mansi to share perspectives on the financial performance for the quarter.
Thank you, Charikar. Good evening, everyone. Let me provide you a brief overview of the financial performance for the quarter ended June 30, 2021. During the quarter, we have delivered a strong performance driven by improved demand and traction across the HPPC business and normalization in demand from the TSC and AHN businesses. On a consolidated basis, revenues came in at 231.11 crore as against 109.47 crore in Q1 FY21. Revenues from HPPC stood at 132.34 crore, contributing to 57.3% of revenues, followed by TSC businesses at 74.67 crore, contributing 32.3%, and AHN at 24.10 crore, contributing 10.4% to total revenues. On the profitability front, EBITDA stood at 37.12 crore as against 23.74 crore in Q1 FY21. EBITDA margin stood at a steady level of 16.06% in Q1 FY22. PAT during the quarter stood at 24.55 crore as against 15.49 crore in Q1 FY21. Depreciation was higher at 6.32 crore on YOY owing to capitalization of the greenfield facility at Dahej. We anticipate additional charge to be absorbed efficiently as the new facility starts contributing to performance going forward. Interest cost during the Q1 FY22 stood at 0.63 crore. From a balance sheet perspective, cash and cash equivalents and investments, which also includes fixed deposits and mutual fund investments, stood at rupees 414 crore as on June 30, 2021. In April 2021, we had concluded a preferential issue of equity aggregating to rupees 300 crore, which further augmented the strength of our balance sheet. Both the discussed acquisition will be funded through cash on balance sheet, and we do not intend to raise any debt. On the whole, the company's financial position is very strong. We are also happy to share that the rating agency ICRA Limited has assigned its ratings of Rossari as AA- stable on the long-term fund-based working capital facilities and on unallocated limit at A1+ on short-term non-fund-based limit. On that note, I come to the end of our opening remarks and would request the moderator to open the forum for any operational and strategic-led questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 at this time. The first question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity and congrats on good numbers. So the first question is on the textile specialty chemical segment. In the last couple of quarters, we have seen that domestic textile companies have performed very well. However, our segment has not performed that well. So what is the reason and how do we look at this segment from a growth perspective? Because if we look at last 3 years, more or less the performance has been flattish and the HPPC segment has driven the overall performance. So how do we look at the TSC segment? Thank you.
Rohitji, good evening. As normally the first quarter of every year, the textile is always lower than the last quarter of the end of the financial year because the teams push material in the last quarter always, and the March quarter is the highest always ever. At 78 crores of textile, if you multiply it by 4, it goes to more than 310 crore rupees just by this ratio. When we had at 250 crores in the last year. May, the textile industry was closed. There were no workers because of the lockdown and the panic of Corona in April, which happened. And that is why there was some low. But again, from June onwards, we see a very good, growth momentum in the textile segment.
Right. So effectively, if we just multiply by 4, at least we should be able to get to that revenue profile at the end of the year. Is that assessment right?
Yes, perfectly right. So, last quarter was highest, but this quarter is also very good. If it was May was open, then this also would have been a record quarter for us.
Right. So the second question is again on the strategic acquisitions. So if you could just give us some idea about each of these acquisitions, how much of the revenues would be for captive consumption from Rosari's perspective, and how much of it would be on an external sales perspective, just to understand that whether there is a significant benefit from the captive consumption perspective where we'll have some kind of an integration synergies and that will lead to margin expansion, or is it completely to cater to a new business segment which currently we are not into? Thank you.
So, Rohitji, as you see, I'll go one by one. The Unitop acquisition, their business is more than 60% in the agro segment, and around 10 to 15% of their business is the oil and gas, basically. So more than 75% of their business are in these two segments, and therefore, for captive consumption, there will be no raw material really available unless we expand capacity, which we are not looking at in the near future. So most of it has to be value addition. So they manufacture certain ingredients, and just like Rosari, Unitop also produces formulations and custom-made products for the agro and oil and gas divisions. In the case of TriStar Intermediates, where they make personal care additives, these additives are completely sold as it is to their customers, and therefore there is no captive consumption that is seen for Rosari here. And more than 80 to 85% of that business is personal care additives. The surfactants and certain fragrance chemicals that they make, they again will go directly to the customer, where they do some amount of contract manufacturing and job work. So finally, if you see, nothing much will remain for Rosari for captive consumption.
Okay, and the recent one in terms of silicone oils?
Okay, sir, silicone oil, which is Romac Chemicals, this company is a strategic buyout actually, because silicone chemistry is something which is very special in the sense manufacture of silicone oils from the basic raw materials, the D4, the D5, from the linears, etc., is a very closely guarded technology, and this technology is ruled by a very few companies in the world. Most of them are MNCs, like we have Momentive, we have Wacker, we have Dow. These are the main multinationals which manufacture silicone oils from the basic raw material, and there are one or two smaller companies, domestically grown companies, which make small quantities of these silicone oils. And therefore, Romac Chemical acquisition is a very strategic one, because here we have technology to manufacture the silicone oils. We also have the technology to manufacture the newer block silicones and the amido silicone oils, the silicone blends, silicone emulsions for personal care. So, since Rosari was very strong in silicones in textile, now we have the opportunity of entering other markets like rubber chemicals, like personal care additives, metal cutting, etc., etc. So therefore, if you see, as well as defoamers, defoamers in various industries, also with these silicone oils. So this technology has great potential in the future, and therefore it's a strategic buyout.
Right, got it. And just one last question on the exports front. Now, given that these acquisitions have exports market as well, how are we going to capitalize on this opportunity given that currently our share of exports is relatively lower?
So at the present moment, we are not looking at capitalizing anything from any of these acquisitions. All these acquisitions are standalone companies basically, and all their promoters and the key management personnel have committed to be with us for the next 3 years, at least minimum. So 2 to 3 years, these promoters and KMPs, that is the key management personnel, are going to be with us. So our job for the near short term is to integrate these companies with Rossari. Since they are standalone companies, they will be still managed by the promoters. There will be control from Rossari. We are also in the process of hiring a CEO and a group CFO to manage the finances as well as the day-to-day operations of these companies. So largely, we are trying to professionalize the acquisitions with control from Rossari Biotech. So the long-term goal will be actually, or near short-term goal will be to look at synergies, to look at cross-selling. But first is to take control of these acquisitions and not to take advantage and look at, speeding up sales, speeding up operations and things like that.
Got it. Thanks a lot for all clarifications and best of luck, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sanjesh Jain from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir, and congratulations on a very healthy set of numbers. A couple of questions from my side. First, on the raw material front, has the situation normalized for us in the gross margin? Pressure has come off. Are we able to pass on some of the RM pressure to the customer? How should we look at the margins going forward? Are the Q1 margins going to be the bottom margins, and from here, should we only see the improvement for the gross profit margin?
Thank you, Sanjay ji. Actually, if you have been following the raw material situation globally, the volatility is unprecedented in all commodities, basically surfactants, in silicones because of the silicon metal shortage, in acrylics because of force majeure by large companies and a fire at LG Chemicals, which has now increased in China. In China, there has been large-scale flooding, because of which again supply chain disruption has taken place. So what we've done since the third quarter of last year, when the Hurricane Laura hit Texas, there we had a lot of supply chain disruption, and during the Trump regime, we found that there is a economic war between China and US, because of which huge supply chain difficulties were seen. Now, we thought that yes, the situation will improve from the third quarter to the fourth quarter, but unfortunately did not normalize, and it worsened in the first quarter of 2021. Now, we find that this situation cannot last, because it is very artificial and it is very virtual kind of a situation. It is not a real situation, because the demand is not so great that the prices have to go up. So we are sure that going forward from here, we will be able to manage the situation with respect to RM, raw materials. In raw materials, what we've done from our side to take care of this situation is since we have a very formidable formulation expertise as well as application knowledge, we are able to use alternate raw materials for our formulations without an impact on quality and the final application. This is one thing that we have done. The other thing we have done is we have got into maintaining or managing our inventory in such a way that we have covered raw material a little more. If you look at our numbers, the inventory figures are a little bit higher than what they were in the last quarter. And these are the two major actions that we have taken. And one of the key raw materials, that is acrylic acid, which was supposed to be started by BPCL last month, has been delayed further. So I think by the end of this month, by the end of August, acrylic acid also will become locally available, and the pressure on the pricing will go down. Especially because everybody thought that BPCL would produce and supply domestically, so the pipeline, the import pipeline got dry. And therefore, again, there was a kind of artificial shortage in the marketplace. So if you see, all in all, the situation is actually not very much in control, but because of our expertise in formulation and application, we've been able to do this. Apart from that, from third quarter of last year, we've been passing on the price increases to the customer as and where possible, especially in our ODMs, in our contract manufacturing, as well as with customers which we have long-term relationships, we have been able to pass on. But repeated passing on is really becoming difficult, and we are sure that in the near future, this situation will improve.
On the gross profit again, for last 5 quarters, the market.
Sir, we cannot hear you. Hello?
What can you hear?
Mr. Jain, this is the operator. We cannot hear you, sir. The audio is breaking from your line. No, sir, we still cannot hear you.
Just a second. Okay, I'll come to a better reception area. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Apologies for that. So basically, on the gross profit side, the margins were at 42% last year, same quarter. We are at a 31%. So by what time frame do you see reaching back to that 35 to 38% kind of a gross profit margin which we have guided for?
So this is unfair to compare last quarter of last year, first quarter of last year's gross profit with this year's gross profit. We have been continuously maintaining that was an unprecedented time where more than 75% of our business was from HPPC. The TSC as well as the animal health and businesses were completely closed, and there was a real opportunistic sale in the marketplace because of hand sanitizers, sanitization as well as the disinfectants. So it is completely unfair to compare the first quarter of last year with this quarter.
No, Edward sir, I got that. I'm asking more from the guidance perspective that we have maintained that we will do a gross profit margin of 35 to 38%. So we are at a 31%. My question is, in next how many quarter do we see ourselves reaching a gross profit margin of our guidance, in the range of our guidance? I was not comparing with the margins of the Q1 FY21.
Mr. Sanjay, you will appreciate the situation in the marketplace based on the raw material scenario, the volatility in the raw material, the artificial supply chain disruptions, the artificial shortages created in the market. But I don't think this upward spiral for the raw materials can be sustained. And coming quarters, we are very positive that the raw material pricing situation will normalize. And once it normalizes, our gross profit will go up. Another aspect to this is we've been actually in the past we've been focusing more on EBITDA margins, but internally now we find that we must focus more on the asset turn. So we are focusing now on the asset turn rather than EBITDA margin percentage per se, which makes more sense. Of course, we will try and maintain the 16 to 18% guidance as far as possible, like we have maintained in the last quarter. However, more because of the newer acquisitions and the Dahej facility which has come up, our focus will be on asset turn and ROCE rather than looking at percentage EBITDA.
No, I was just asking that question because at a 31% gross profit margin, we are already hitting an EBITDA margin of 16%. Assuming that we pull it back to 33-34%, and we are looking at an EBITDA margin which is much better than our guidance of 16 to 18%. So my question was that assuming that we are able to pull back over say next 3 or 4 quarters when the things normalize, that also means that at a normalized rate we should be doing a much better EBITDA margin. Is that understanding right? Or
yeah, of course. Once the raw material prices normalize, we will maintain our 16 to 18% EBITDA margins. Very easy.
No, I'm telling there is an upside risk to that 18% margin because at a 31% kind of a gross profit margin, we are already doing a 16% EBITDA margin, right?
But sir, in the near future when everything opens up, then the costs also will go up. The travel costs and the the sales costs. All those costs will go up. So the exhibition costs. So therefore, the EBITDA margin will still remain at 16 to 18%. That's.
So
I mean, our endeavor will be to get better ones, but our guidance is between 16 to 18%.
Fair enough. One last question from my side. So this is on the consolidated minus standalone. I think large part of it should be a Buzil Rossari. Now there the EBITDA margin for this quarter has been quite healthy at 24%, and a very strong gross profit margin of 40% at a revenue base of just 272 million. How should we see this segment growing from here on, and is this margin sustainable for us in the Buzil?
Sir, can you come again, because a little bit disturbance was there. Can you come again with this question?
So I was talking that if I do a consolidated financial minus standalone financial, so I should get the subsidiaries number. We got two subsidiaries. One is Buzil Rossari, the other one is Personal Care. I think Personal Care should be very small for us. A significant part of this difference should be coming from the Buzil. And if I look at the EBITDA margin for this particular financials, which is consolidated minus standalone, I get an EBITDA margin of 24%. Now, this number used to be quite low last quarter. It was only 8 million of EBITDA on a revenue of 167 million. And this quarter we have gone to 272 million of revenue, and we have an EBITDA of 68 million, which is ballpark 24% EBITDA margin. I was just trying to understand what is driving such a healthy growth, one in revenue and the second in the EBITDA margin and EBITDA itself.
Mansi ji will talk about the margin.
EBITDA margin is, Sanjay ji, basically what happens is Rossari is selling to BRPL on a transfer pricing basis. So the manufacturing profit is also getting booked in Rossari only. And basically some sale, obviously in case of subsidiary Rossari, since Rossari is also selling to BRPL, some sales revenue figures also get eliminated. So that is why you are getting maybe the minus, when you minus you are getting 25% EBITDA. But actually it is in line with what we have in Rossari only, the EBITDA margin. So that is, I mean, just because elimination also comes in the making consolidated balance sheet.
And Sanjay ji, for sales, April was peak second wave of corona, and the sale of sanitizers and disinfectants was again, very, very high. And, we had fantastic tender orders and also from a lot of good trusts, and that is why the sales of BRPL look very high.
Got it. What was the revenue for BRPL in Q1?
Q1 it is 33-34 crores approximately.
Q1 FY21 क्या अभी?
Current ना?
नहीं, Q1 FY21, the quarter gone by.
हाँ, 33 crores, 33-34 crores.
33 crores. Oh, got it. Fair. Thank you very much for all the answers, and best of luck. Yeah.
Thank you. Reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Ankur Periwal from Axis Capital. Please go ahead. Ankur Periwal, your line is in talk mode. Please go ahead with your question.
Sorry, I'm audible now?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So congratulations for a good set of numbers, sir. So, continuing with the discussion on the raw material side, if I look at our numbers on a sequential basis, while there may be some sort of, seasonality factor there, but broadly speaking, gross margins are maintained. While at the same time, as you rightly mentioned, the raw material inflation still continues. So two parts of the question. One, what is resulting in this stability? Is it largely because of the product mix, or there are sort of, some pass-through benefits, further pass-through benefits, which we are seeing here? And secondly, what is the typical time lag across the segment, HPPC, textiles, as well as animal health and nutrition, in terms of the pass-through, mechanism for the raw material inflation?
So actually the quarter-on-quarter growth, if you look at the quarter-on-quarter growth is almost 6%. So out of this, there is a judicious mix of volume growth as well as pricing growth. So we have been able to pass on more than 50% of the growth which comes from pricing. And there is a combination of things, various things, because the HPPC segment did very well. The performance chemicals like chemicals in the paint industry, in the water treatment industry, as well as the performance industry, that which we had seeded last year and the year before, that has picked up after our Dahej plant has commissioned. So that has given a change in product mix. Basically, textile was down, but HPPC was high. And therefore, because of this product mix also, there is a both volume as well as pricing growth. In the last quarter, some new products also have been developed and launched in the marketplace in the HPPC segment. These have also contributed nicely to our growth.
Sure, sir. And on the pricing pass-through front, how much time lag does it typically take to pass through the raw material inflation across the segment?
So as I already explained, that it is almost 3 or 4 times we've been able to pass on the pricing, But this time, because of the second wave and because of the impact of that on the industry, the pass-through is a little bit delayed. Otherwise, generally by end of month, we come to know whether the pricing situation is going to improve or not improve, and then we take a decision to increase the prices. Now, there are various segments here, like animal health and nutrition, home personal care and performance chemicals, as well as textile specialty chemicals. So the HPPC segment, the pass-through is quicker. That means within 15 days, we try and pass through the pricing to them, or at least within by the first of every month there is a new price which goes on, because it requires a lot of commodity chemicals. Whereas for the textile specialty chemicals and the animal health and nutrition, the pass-through is a little bit slower.
Sure, sir. That's helpful. In your earlier answer, you did mention that we are trying to focus more on ROCs, asset turns here. So any thoughts there you can help? What exactly are we thinking across the erstwhile business as well as the newer acquisition? How we are trying to ramp that up.
So, Ankurji, as I said, the newer acquisitions, we are not going to shake the boat too much, basically, because they are standalone, running, going concerns, basically. They have a set of people. They have their key management personnel who will continue to look after the business. There will be only guidance from the Rossari management to them. And we are getting in more management specialists there to look at that business. So at the present moment, from a business angle, we believe that at least for the next 6 months, we will allow these businesses to run the way they were running. After studying these businesses for the next 3 months or 1 or 2 quarters, then our inputs will go into these companies. That's how we look at running these businesses, because we don't want to disturb the boat very quickly. We will get in slowly and steadily, focusing more on integrating the culture, focusing more on leveraging the operational efficiencies, focusing on more on synergies in product lines, as well as our own chemistries. So that is the plan. So we will more look at synergies and cultural behaviors, etc., rather than really forcing or being very aggressive on business, which we could look after 2 or 3 quarters.
Sure, sir. And from a company-specific point in time, since if I go by the historical numbers, 1920, at its peak we were at around 6.5 times asset turn. Is that the number you would guide us for going ahead as well, or there could be some changes there?
Ankurji, we expect asset turn of 4 to 5 times.
Because of the hedge.
Because of the hedge facility.
Because of the hedge, okay.
Because that will take time. I mean, the hedge facility investment will take time to generate the revenue. So for the next year, it will be around 4 to 5 times.
No, my question was more from a 3-year out. Let's say by that time the hedge would have started ramping up well as well.
3 years would be a little bit more than 5. It will be, we aim to have it at around 6. 5 to 6.
Okay. Fair enough. Thanks a lot, sir, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ankurji.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Archit Ganeriwal. Individual investor, please go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity and congratulations on the amazing result. Just a couple of operational questions. Is there any change in the client concentration mix post the acquisitions that the company has? If I am not wrong, pre-acquisition, the top 5 customers contributed 44% of the company's revenue. I just wanted to get a sense of, is there a change in that number?
So the spread will be higher, Ankurji, because we will have a larger number of customers from our acquisitions. So in the acquisition also the customer spread is pretty good. Unitop has a pretty good customer spread. TriStar also has a pretty good customer spread. So I would believe that the customer spread will be larger post acquisition.
No, sir. I meant the customer concentration was my question.
So customer concentration will come down when the customer spread increases.
All right. My next question is, the company has a dedicated center of excellence at IIT Powai. Will the subsidiary companies which are going to be operating as standalone will have access to these research facilities, or will it just be for Rossari?
No, yes, of course. Once they are acquired and then we start integrating these companies, then the facility at IIT Powai will be available to all the 3 companies that we have. Having said that, all the 3 companies have their own R&D basically. So there is a R&D center at Unitop in Dahej. There is a R&D facility at TriStar as well as at Bromax. So all the 3 companies, they have their own individual R&D, but as the equipment, kind of equipment available at IIT Powai is much superior, they will have access to all those equipments.
All right. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manoj Garg from White Oak Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Very good evening to Mr. Edward and Mr. Chariji. And thank you very much for taking time out, and congratulations for a very good set of numbers. So just Mr. Edward, one question to you. And since you have alluded about these three acquisitions which we have made over the last, 2 acquisitions and 1 strategic investment, which we have made over the past three months, if you look at all these 3 acquisitions are more like in downstream, and where probably we are getting into newer areas which we were not addressing earlier, like whether you talk about agrochemical, oil and gas, and surfactant and so on and so forth. So while maybe the underlying basic chemistry with all these 2 or 3 companies could be more or less same, but if we have to look through maybe over the next 2 to 3 years, how do we see the synergistic benefit of these acquisitions, and how the consolidated entity will help us to cross leverage the capabilities which we have in Rossari Biotech?
So that's a very good question actually, and we've given a lot of thought when we did this acquisition to look at how to utilize the downstream chemistries that these companies have. So I'll go one by one. I have mentioned on a number of occasions that Unitop manufactures a range of surfactants, basically the ethylene oxide and the ethylene oxide, propylene oxide condensates, and they also make certain other precursors that are required for these condensates like the tristeryl, phenol, etc. So the basic reason for selecting these companies was Unitop Chemicals makes the ingredients similar to what ingredients we make for textiles as well as for HPPC in Rossari. However, on a number of occasions we have mentioned that we don't want to sell the surfactants or these ingredients as ingredients, and therefore Unitop also does not sell more than 10% of its ingredients as ingredients. All the ingredients that they make, they add value to it. They make formulations for the agro actives so that it can emulsify the agro actives. This process is almost a 2-year process for approvals and for certifications from their customers. So there is, in addition to what we do, there is additional barrier which Unitop has for other people to enter there very quickly. So their entire focus is on value addition using their formulation knowledge, and they have a formulation knowledge more than around 40 years, more than what Rossari has. So therefore, their agro formulations and oil and gas formulations have really entry barrier and add value to their ingredients. So actually they will not sell ingredients and reduce the value of the product. TriStar is another acquisition where they do the the personal care additives. There, Rossari would have synergies coming in. Rossari has very strong formulation expertise and application knowledge. So with these additives, we would now try and formulate products from these personal care additives and add value to TriStar. Similarly, in the case of Romac, so Romac, although manufacture the silicone oils as well as certain block silicones and amido silicones. However, their main technology that they have, in addition to manufacturing of these oils, is the emulsion. In the emulsion technology, which goes into rubber, which will go into paint, which will go into the release coatings, and it will also go into personal care. So in personal care, silicone oils, their blends, their emulsions, these are all high tech after manufacture of the silicone oil. So therefore, if you see in all these three acquisitions, in two acquisitions, they are already into value add after they manufacture the ingredients. With TriStar, we will try to gain synergy with our formulation expertise and application knowledge.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. So is it fair to understand, like at some point of time, even we also had, or we were looking into entering into, water chemicals and some of the other segments. And now with these acquisitions, since we have access to the customers, we probably would be able to sell the Rossari products to these customers in other areas of expertise which we have. Or there is no such cross-selling opportunity to each other segment.
So we have already started doing that. We had a small business transfer agreement with a company called Trio Chemicals, which used to make defoamers, etc. We have integrated that and we have started the cross-selling between the two companies. Similarly, with Unitop, they are distribution partners all over the world as well as in India, and all of them have some connection to textile, and therefore we will definitely do cross-selling. That is the idea, the synergy in customers, the synergy in product profiles, as well as the synergy in the chemistries of all the three companies.
Yes, got it. So there are cross-selling and cross-leveraging opportunities across the companies. Sure. That's very heartening to know, sir. The second thing, since you spoke about surfactants and you talk about Unitop, and I think historically what we have always said that whenever we talk about surfactants, our focus would be more towards green chemistry, and that's where we will probably add value, in the overall chemistry chain. So, is it like Unitop products are also more towards green chemistry, or they are largely coming from the crude oil derivatives?
So the Unitop chemicals basically are I won't say they are green, but they are eco-friendly chemicals. So we do not use the alkyl phenols or the nonyl phenol kind of products that we avoid in textiles as well as in home and personal care. In the future, we plan to introduce certain more biodegradable chemistries there at Unitop.
Got it. And just the last question from my side, sir. With now we acquiring 40% stake in that personal care subsidiary, and if I understand correctly, that there used to be Mr. Agarwal who were, I think, owning at that point of time the balance of the share. So what's Mr. Agarwal's plan? Is he still going to drive this company, or there are different plans for Mr. Agarwal?
No, he continues to be there, not on the full-time basis, but on part-time basis. Even today, he's in Sitapur on his hometown, and he was working, towards making some presentations for key customers. So he continues to be there for 3 years. That is what we have a signed agreement with him, and his commitment definitely will be more than even what he has put in on a signed sheet.
So then, Chariji, any reason that why he has probably, diluted his stake, or he has sold out the entire stake? Given the fact that I think probably when we have formed this company, we were hoping that Mr. Agarwal will bring a lot of expertise in his, experience which he spent with HUL. and we were very optimistic about that. So, any specific reason that why he has decided to dilute his stake?
Sir, the business of Rossari Personal Care was on our radar, even before we met, Mr. Rupesh Agarwal, and formally thought that, we'll take him on board. It is a division or a business focus for us. The board feels that Rossari Personal Care has a very, very big future. And, we offered, Rupesh ji an exit at this moment. And he took an exit. He wanted to do a personal brand of his own. And we said, it is good you do a personal brand of his own and, devote part-time to us. So, the business will grow very big in the future. And we think, we have got a shares at the right time at a very good price.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for answering all the questions and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Manoj. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shanti Patel from Shanti Patel Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. My question is very simple. With this all acquisitions that we have got, what will be ultimately return on capital and return on equity as on 31st March 2022 and 23? I don't expect a precise percentage, but approximately.
Sir, we expect return on capital employed maybe around 22% plus, and return on equity would be approximately 25% plus.
31st March 22.
It will be, after 22. As of now, for 22, if you are asking, it will be 18 to 20% ROCE and 20% of ROE. This 22% plus, the increase will be after 2 years, sir.
So impliedly, as on 31st March 22, it will be 20% for both of them, approximately, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And after 1 year, that is 31st March 23,
correct,
it will be return on equity 25 and return on capital
23, 24, maybe even 24 we aim to have ROCE as 22%, sir.
So it will increase return, correct?
Huh?
It will go up as compared to 22, correct?
Correct, sir. Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shanti Bhai.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Bhatt, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. First of all, good evening and congratulations for the very set of good numbers. Being an individual investor, my question is that we have been done recent acquisitions and strategic partnership with the firms. So can you please tell me what would be the gain in the company's balance sheet, and after this the heat plant expansion and after this unit of and expansions, when will be going to gain this in our balance sheet? Thank you, sir.
Actually, sir, we expect that our acquisitions will get complete. After the completion of CPs, we expect that it will get complete in the current quarter. So we'll start consolidating. The gain on the balance sheets will be from this quarter 2 of the current year, September, sir. Hello?
Okay. Yes, ma'am. And what about the operating profit margin of these 3 acquisitions? So at what stage these 3 companies are here? As we are having something 16 or 18% or 22% operating profit margin, what about these acquisitions we have? And do we have any plan to improve their profit margin with the synergy?
Their margins are in the range of 15%, but we definitely have aims to improve these margins and bring it at our Rossari level with the synergies.
Okay, ma'am. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up. Sir, on the Romac Chemicals, could you give us what is the size of revenues, what is the size of asset that they have, and will it be predominantly from sourcing perspective that we are looking at, and then getting into that chemistry further in terms of dimethicones or simethicones?
Rohitji, as I said in my opening remarks, that Romac is more of a strategic buy rather than looking from the revenue point of view. Since the lockdown time, last year's revenue for this company was around 11-12 crores. But we have a good business plan in place for the next 3 to 5 years, mainly because it is a company which will be driven by 5 promoters which have cumulative 60-70 years of experience in the silicone field, not only in textiles but also in personal care, in rubber chemicals, in release compounds, as well as defoamers in paper and paint. So therefore, being a strategic buy, the synergies that can come from this acquisition are going to be multifold basically. There will be a lot of synergies here. A lot of state-of-the-art technology is available in this company with respect to the recent block silicones or the random block silicones, the amido silicones, as well as manufacture of various emulsions, internal emulsions with very high internal viscosities for personal care, as well as a lot of emulsions in the beauty sector as well as the hair care sector. So the potential with Romac Chemicals is really very high, and we hope that this will be one of the big growth drivers in the future.
Thank you so much, sir, and best of luck.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I now hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you for taking out your time and coming on our earnings call. I hope we have been able to answer all your questions satisfactorily. Should you need any further clarifications or would like to know more about the company, please feel free to contact our team or CDR India. Thank you once again for taking the time to join us on this call. Bye.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Rossari Biotech Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.